Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to All Burgundy and Gold Everything. I'm Glenn. With me also today is my main man, Mo, Wole, and Ray is out. What's going on, Mo?
Ain't much, man. Holding it down for the team. Last regular season game of the season.
Yes, last regular season game for the season as the Washington Commanders take on the Dallas Cowboys today from FedEx Field. It's sad day for some people, happy days for others. You may see some people rejoicing, you may see some people crying, you may see some fans just shouting. But I tell you one thing, whatever it is, we know that the Washington Commanders will not be moving on after today. Their season will be over. Season will definitely be over today. We got Candy Waller from Seawall Sports and Bowie TV, Commanders reporter. We're going to bring her here in a minute to chat about the Commanders. Also, we got on tap today, we can talk about Ron Rivera and when will he get fired? Will it be today on his birthday or will it be tomorrow with the Commanders wait there? We're going to also talk about those that are inactive, what's next for Eric Bieniemy, and what is next for how this team is going to look next year after today's in the season. So at this time, we're bringing Candy Waller from Seawall Sports and Bowie TV live from FedEx Field. Hey, Candy, how you doing?
Hey, you guys, how you doing?
Doing
How
well,
are
doing
you?
well. As I mentioned, today is whichever way you want to look at it, right? You look at today as being the day that the Commanders we can put this dead horse to the rest, right? Of what we call a football season for the Washington Commanders and a new start to the beginning. How is things at FedEx Field today? What's the atmosphere like at FedEx Field?
A lot of excited Dallas Cowboys fans are here, and it's just kind of ready to get it over with from a Commander's perspective. Um, I mean, the guys who are active are going to play. They have something to still play for. I mean, you would think you would still want some decent film out there on yourself in the event or when in the event become available, right? So, um, I think this is a shock. I think the last maybe few weeks, it's like just going through the motions because of when the season is and where we are. But I think folks are really shocked by how this season turned out. Like, you know, it could not have been probably any worse. That was definitely not anticipated.
Now, you think people are shocked because of the offensive side of the football, or just as a whole, as a team,
I
as
think
an
the whole
organization?
right. I think the whole team and organization. I really do believe that Coach Rivera and the coaching staff believe they have everything they need to win, right, or at least be competitive. The lack of production and just overall inefficiency of the defense is probably the largest thing. The regression of Sammy is probably something else that was a shock. They knew that he was going to be developing throughout the season, but the fact that he got regressed is a shock. It's just not I think this team had high aspirations for competing in the division game. And even though last year they were out of the playoffs at this point in time, there was still some excitement, right, coming into this game. Players were still ready to play Dallas, and it's not like that right now.
So what you're saying is that the last game of Ron Rivera's season, Ron Rivera tenure as the head football coach of Washington Commanders, this team will probably come out flat. Yes, once again.
It looks like it could be um, a real indicator of how this is going, right? Which is bad, But I think if ever there was going to be, can you all not hear me?
Nah, the band is coming through. We heard you. It's a little bit low because the band is coming through.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Speak up a little bit. Yeah,
Okay, y'all hear me
That's
better
a lot
now?
better.
yeah. That's a lot better
Yeah.
now. Yes.
Yeah, 'cause the band just rolled through here. Um, but I think Thanksgiving Day was bad. This could be equally as bad.
Wow. With that, Sam Howell's starting today, right? Sam Howell starting. What do we expect from Sam Howell? We know Terry McLaurin needs a little bit of yards. I think it's 50 some yards before he gets 1,000 yards for the season. Do we see a lot of Terry McLaurin early on to get him those 1,000 yards from Sam Howell?
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple of guys. I think Logan has a few more yards to get as well. Maybe to like pass Vernon Davis. Um, it's all kind of just for camaraderie and individual accolades, if you will. And like I was saying a moment ago, to maybe get some good film out there on you. It's kind of like despite the record, you don't want potentially, the team's play to impact the way another team may view you, or even the new regime, how they view you. So some guys are still going to do their thing, but this isn't not about winning a football game.
And
This is
I think to your point,
just trying to get through the season.
I said
Go
I
ahead,
think
Mo.
I think to your point that today is a tryout of sorts, right? We got people
Mhm.
at the end of contracts. We got people that need incentive bonuses and whatnot. So it behooves them to put their best foot forward. It behooves them to not have a game like Thanksgiving and a repeat. You know what I mean, it behooves them to have a repeat of last year since we kind of had deja vu with Sam Howell. This was his what was this? His welcome to the NFL moment last year, right? It kind of got him into the starting lineup for this year and all the interest in him over the course of the offseason. So it'd be behoove them, even though not possibly, it will be Ron's last game as the head coach of this football team, to put their best foot forward. As we know, like, the NFL is a business and everybody has tape, and a lot of people will be auditioning to be elsewhere, because we have to believe that with this new regime and possibly what they're going to bring in with the GM and the new head coach and all that possible, that a lot of guys playing in their last game today in a Commander's uniform.
Absolutely, for sure. And they know it. They know it.
And with that being said, with a lot of people knowing that today is the last game as the Washington Commanders, and how does the locker room, been around the locker room, how does the locker room feel, and how do some of those guys like Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Tarek McLaurin, some of the guys that we kind of figure will be here next year, feel about not even getting a Pro Bowl alternative or snub? This team didn't get a Pro Bowl player, first time I believe since 2003. You know, how was the sentiment around this team about guys not making making a Pro Bowl?
I mean, they felt like, hey, we didn't deserve to make the Pro Bowl.
Okay.
It wasn't like nobody feels snubbed. That's for sure. Nobody's like got a chip on their shoulder, feel snubbed. They're like, hey, listen, we didn't deserve that. We didn't deserve that accolade this year at all. And considering the caliber of players, I mean, they were just many of the guys, all of them that you just named were in the Pro Bowl last year,
Mm-hmm.
right? The team had what, four Pro Bowlers, two alternates, and the alternates were able to go. And they know the caliber of players that make that Pro Bowl. They just talked about it a lot, about the camaraderie and just listening to how those guys talk about their teammates, the culture in their organizations. They know they didn't play on that level, not even close. I know it's disappointing because to go from a year where you're looking at four starters and two alternates to zero. I mean, Trent's Way didn't even make it. It's like we were really this bad this year. Yeah, we were really that bad.
And
Yeah.
I think to your point, the leader of that pack has to be Deron Payne. I'm thinking coming off signing a $22 million contract, a career year last year. Like, this was absolutely the opposite of what we expected from him this year, right? So if he's not one of the guys spearheading the charge to getting the Pro Bowl, especially when you ship Montez Sweat out of here and he earned his first one with the Chicago Bears, I think that sentiment reigns true. Terry McLaurin, unfortunately, quarterback situation has not favored him in his career here. Like, we all know the type of talent that he is and what he should be producing. He should not be waiting till the final game of the season to try to crack over 1,000. I think that a lot of things are on display today for why this team underachieved.
Yeah, and it's really sad. I mean, it's unfortunate. I've been sharing this message on various shows where it's like we're seeing teams and franchises that used to get laughed at have now surpassed the Commanders from a front office and field product perspective. I mean, both the Texans and the Colts, they went through drastic changes last year, won 9 games this season. Yeah, the Colts didn't make the playoffs, but they won 9 games. The Pittsburgh Steelers, as much as they go through and have been through this season between injuries and overall play, they still ended up winning 10 games this season. You've literally seen movement across the entire league in most of the franchises, and the Commanders seem to have done a complete 180 in the opposite direction in just 1 year.
Yeah, and a lot of that is because of management, poor decision making, some poor draft choices. Watching Detroit earlier as Detroit played, look how their rookies are stepping up, right? How Detroit's rookies and how they built that system. I talked about it on the podcast earlier this week. The Washington Commanders need to have a model like the Detroit Lions. It may be a slow pace, but you see progression. Look at the Cleveland Browns. You talk about another team who flipped, who's now people are talking about on a regular basis. The Cleveland Browns, right? Those are the types of teams that used to be laughing stock. When you said Detroit, laughed at you. Laughed at them. You said Indianapolis, laughed at them. You said it's Houston, Texas, right? Just last year, the Houston Texans were god awful, right? And those teams with good head coaches, look at the difference. With good head coaching and guys who are disciplined, guys who understand it, who bring in some younger coordinators who are willing to relinquish some control. Those teams they've been able to flip that organization, which this team has not been able to do. Hopefully, with the new regime coming in, with the new coach, new general manager, is able to flip the organization. Candy, I know you. How would this team here? What in your eyes can this team do to win the game today, or is it not about winning a football game?
I don't think it's about winning a football game. I think people are in a save, from a team perspective, they're in a save yourself mode. I think they've been in save yourself mode for the last few weeks. The reality is, I see Rolay's question in the chat, and
Yeah.
they always want to beat the Cowboys, right? Like everybody be lying if they, wasn't really excited or had that to hang their hat on. Oh, you beat the Cowboys, But I really don't think this is a year that even matters. And I've even been hard on people about the number two draft position. When you're looking at these teams that we were just mentioning, as well as, hey, for what it's worth, the Dallas Cowboys, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Baltimore Ravens, we can continue on naming them. They don't care about draft position. And these are teams that have made it where they are right now, not with top 3 draft picks, right? Most of these teams just have excellent GMs and talent evaluators and scouts. They have the right mindset. They know exactly what they want going in. Everybody knows who the opponents are for the next 3 years. You know who the opponents are. You may not know the schedule, but you know your opponents. So you should be able to effectively plan for the future. And these teams do not care about draft position. And we've seen them have consistent years of success without top draft picks. So for this year, because we understand the situation that they're in, you could probably more than likely end up with a number 2 pick. Whoever they pick at number 2, this better be a signal to what the rest of this era is going to be for them. It is a huge, they can't miss. It can't be a miss at all.
I'm gonna ask you this: the teams that you talked about and the teams that know what they're getting into, how much of that is structure from the top, working its way down with a standard, right? Under the Ron Rivera model for the last 4 years, it didn't seem like there was a certain standard that was here, a certain standard that people had to live up to. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, it was already a huge risk, but this is, of course, previous ownership, where you had the head coach also be your GM, essentially. Yes, there's a GM here, but the final decision maker in the talent evaluation was always Coach Rivera. It was always him, always him. It was always his decision. He always had the last say. He always picked whoever he wanted, even if it was a decision made in a meeting, and that when the pick came, he changed his mind. He could do that. And so you may look for this ownership group to maybe go the more traditional route, right, of having a true talent evaluator, GM that is not the head coach, be over football operations, and really get that overall structure back. Because that's what historically you've seen be successful for other. And if you hear Josh Harris talk, of course you want to win a championship or a Super Bowl, right? And if you look at his other teams, but he just talks about being consistent and being competitive, right? We only going to get one champion a year. But if you really look at the teams, and this is an exercise that I did, look at the most winningest teams in the last 10 years, last 5 years. They draft excellent, excellent in draft, and they do a heck of a job in free agency. And this regime has bombed on all of the above.
Yep. And
Nothing
they,
good
And
from
I
free
think
agency. Very minimal with your draft picks.
yep.
I think to your point, that's why a lot of people are excited about today, even though it signals the end of a person's career and what his work that he's done here and trying to hold the ship afloat amidst all the turmoil, right? I think a lot of people are seeing that Coach Rivera's approach was completely different than what we've been seeing across the NFL. Glenn, as you mentioned on a Thursday show, that the wave is this new young coach that has a lot of energy, that comes in with the new style of playbook and can relate to the guys because they're closer in age. And I think Washington is positioning themselves to put themselves in that kind of situation this offseason, depending on who they choose for as the GM and the head coaching, because it'll be a complete 180 from Ron's typical. I'm going to go with my guys that I've had for a long time and the friendships that I've developed for a long time, and continuing to draft the same way they've always drafted. I mean, I think Chase Young was beloved by the fan base here, but as we said on the show the other day, Glenn, that was an opportunity there to do something different, especially with 3 first-round defensive linemen picked in consecutive drafts, right? Or like in drafts that were around that time. And come out of that draft was, I believe, Tua. Coming out of that draft was Justin Herbert. Now imagine if you had that kind of consistency under the quarterback, at the quarterback position over the course of these years. These years may look a little different. And it's easy to say that in hindsight, but it all goes to show and prove what both of you guys have been speaking on, the decision making. And ultimately, that always fell on Coach Rivera. So now it's his head that has to be, accosted for it. So it's interesting to see
Hey,
what the future holds for this team after the day.
Kenny, I know you're busy, and we're gonna let you go real quick. What do you expect to see just today in general with players, with coaching staff, do with fans? What do you expect to see? And also, before you close out, let everybody know where they can hear you at, find you, and things of that nature.
Absolutely. So, today, as you all could expect, you may have seen my post today is a sellout, but that is more than likely mostly Dallas Cowboys fans, whom I've seen the majority of just in walking in the building and just, sitting in my, seat and looking out like, okay, this is the way it can kind of go. I think guys are going to try to do their best to play their best, not necessarily for a win, if that makes sense. If they won, it would be a shock, like a bigger shock than the way the season has gone. But
It also doesn't behoove them, though. It doesn't
yeah,
behoove them in terms of
it
draft
doesn't do
positioning.
anything.
I believe that the Patriots have every reason to lose today, Glenn, to secure the number 2 pick because of their strength of schedule. So, with the Patriots having every reason to lose, the Commanders absolutely have to lose in order to give themselves a
Yeah,
shot at one of the 2 guys that we know.
it doesn't do anybody any good, to potentially, get injured or just whatever. And it's unfortunate to say that because you see the majority of the league has so much to still play for, and this team just does not. So hopefully, the only thing I'm kind of hoping for is that they just don't embarrass themselves like they did on Thanksgiving. That's the only thing I can really hope for their own selves, and just to go out. Tomorrow morning we'll have to do locker room clean out, and I'll be honest with y'all, this is kind of tough. This is kind of tough for everybody because it's been bad ever since Montez and Chase got traded. Because you can't trade both of those guys and make somebody believe that you want to
You
win,
want to win.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
It's your actions didn't match your words, and people are not stupid.
Yep.
So um, at this point, it's kind of like, hey, just don't embarrass yourself, don't get hurt,
Yeah.
and do what you got to do to secure the number 2 pick.
Yep. That's it. That's it. Candy, where everybody can follow you on social media because there's gonna be a lot of breaking news here lately, and that know they want to be able to follow you and you want to be able to get those clicks, likes, and subscriptions up. So tell everybody where they can follow you.
Yes, definitely. On Twitter, we'll be popping red hot. So you can go to Twitter at Sebo SE or at Bowie TV Sports. And you can do the same on YouTube, Bowie TV at BCMC TV Maryland, or at Sebo Sports and Entertainment as well. That's primarily where I will be with all my Commander stuff.
On behalf of Wole, Ray, and Mo, we really want to tell you thank you for rocking with us all season as we endeavored to do pregame, and you've been rocking with us each and every week. We want to tell you thank you, appreciate you, and we love seeing your smile. So hopefully we can do this again next year.
You all really had me on here all season long, rocking with y'all in pregame, road games, and home games. So trust me, likewise, I really appreciate you guys for trusting in my insight and just rocking with me. So that means a lot, says a lot about you guys and your character and who you are as individuals and professionals. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I know, Candy, appreciate it. Thank you, and go Commanders. Talk to
All
you
right.
soon.
See
Bye-bye.
ya.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Candy Waller from Seawall Sports and Bowie TV. At this time, Mo, we're gonna go ahead and bring in D. Mitty and George Templeton to finish our discussion, our pregame about the Washington Commanders. What's up, George? What's up, D, man? How y'all feeling, man?
Feeling good, man. Echo everything you said about Candy Waller. She's been great on this show all year. Glad to be here talking with you guys about this. I figured you were starting at 3:30 because we don't go till 4:25. I didn't think we were getting the early start here.
Not early start here, man. Early start 3:00 to about 4, and I know nothing wrong with that, man. I'm glad you guys came in. As we were talking earlier to Candy, I want to get you guys started. George, I'm gonna start with you. What are you looking for today from this Commanders football team? We know we have some inactives, right? Sam Howell starting. Ron Rivera's last game. What are you looking for? And then after George D, you can go ahead and answer the same question.
I think I'm looking for Sam Howell to put some good tape down because it's been a while, and he's got to. He needs to show whether it's here in Washington, and I believe it will be. He'll be here in Washington next year, or for somebody else down the line, that these last 7 to 8 weeks haven't broken him the way, honestly, I think most of us think that it has. So, for his sake, I hope he has a really good game today. And just some of the other guys who are on there who might be playing their last game for Washington and who are going to be free agents, they gotta show something today. The Cody Bartons of this world and a few others, they gotta try to do something today. I don't expect much, to be honest, but that's what I'm kind of looking for.
Yep. D, same question, man. What do you expect for this team today?
Man, first of all, I appreciate you guys having me on, man. First and foremost, salute to you guys. But what I most definitely feel like is going to happen today, you're going to see some guys that are on, that's wearing these burgundy and gold colors that want to actually play for their future. Now, will it result in the outcome of a win? I really don't think so, because I feel like this Dallas team, they are trying to secure their position in the playoffs. So I don't think it's more so Washington laying down. I think it's going to be more so Dallas. Hey, we need this win to cement where we're going to be. I think they're going to be like second or third, and they probably want the second place to get the home field. You feel what I'm saying? So, and with Sam, I think George hit on something too. I believe Sam wants to put some film out there, and I think that some other guys in that building want to see Sam put some good tape out there against teams like the 49ers in Dallas, and to evaluate where they're going with the quarterback position. So I feel like this is more so an evaluation game for Washington and pole position plays for Dallas.
I think to your point, Dallas, this is deja vu from last year. Dallas has something they got to lock in and really fight for today. We knew it was Sam Howell's coming out party last year. Dallas having something to play for, I think, is a little different. In to tie it into what Sam can put out on the field today, it's going to be rough because Dallas's strength is that front seven on their defense, and Washington's weakness on their offense is the protection. And we know that with Dallas having something to play for, they're going to try to get to Sam early and often. They're going to try to rattle him early, and feed into that lack of confidence that may be there and whatnot. So it's going to be interesting to see what Sam is made of, especially with a lot of the draft pundits thinking that Washington's going to have to go to his alma mater to go get the replacement also. So there's a lot on the line. We know guys like Antonio Gibson and guys that were in their last year of their contracts have something to show to other people. It's probably not going to be here. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of fight the team has early, because if they're not in it early, I think it's going to be a landslide after a while.
Yeah, and some of the notable names of guys who are really fighting big names. You have Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, that are definitely one or two names that are looking for looking for homes that Washington really likes, that contribute a lot to this team. This year. A guy the coach who's looking for a new home, Ron Rivera. I'm gonna get to him in 1 second. I want to put a comment up here from Mark Anderson. Mark Anderson said, "Look, fire Ron and begin a new beginning," which we all know. we all know that's going to happen today. Ron Rivera earlier on in his press conference this week said he wanted to leave this team better than he found it. In your opinion, this is his words, not mine. In your guys' opinion, did Ron Rivera find this team? Is Ron Rivera leaving this team better than he found it?
He said that today.
No, he said at his press conference earlier in the week. Somebody asked him the question. Ron, he said, "I wanted to find this team, lead this team better. I hope to lead this team better." And I'll find the exact quote, but that's what he said.
Can I say something before I leave? I give you guys the floor. I'm gonna answer that quickly in one way, Glenn. He managed to get through 2 name changes, a jersey change, and most importantly, he got Snyder out the building at some point. So I think Ron deserves a little bit more credit than he gets, and I think that's why Ron shouldn't get fired today on his birthday. Ron should get fired tomorrow. His key card should not work after noon tomorrow, but he should at least get today and get him a good steak meal, one last one on the Commanders as a parting gift for his birthday, and then tomorrow we could get to the business at hand on Black Monday.
No, most definitely, man. But my thing is this, though. I seen a clip, and I think JP had asked him a question, and I think it was kind of in reference to where the team was to now, and his response was in the sense of he feel like it's better than where it is, than where it started, and it's only better based on the simple fact that you don't have the optics are better on the outside. Nobody's like, there's no infighting, there's no turmoil with money and all this other stuff that's going on, and which is true, but the culture that needed to be built was winning culture, not winning off the field. The winning on the field would have made anything off the field better. So I disagree with better than it. If I'm kind of,
you're playing on words.
Thank you.
Words.
Except for drafting Sam Howell and Brian Robinson Jr., I think it can be argued that there is nowhere, at least on the field, where it's better. The other stuff that Mo talked about, Ron Rivera deserves very little to no credit for. To be perfectly honest, he gets the one. And if he deserves credit for anything, it's for this nickname we have now that most of us don't like. So the idea that he left it better where he found it is well, let's be honest, it's laughable.
It's in the eye of the beholder, man. It's in the eye of the beholder. Think about it.
Well, I'll tell you what.
He was tasked.
I'd like to meet the other beholders that agree with that.
Right. Because
I believe he was tasked with a lot, but the main thing is always have to be the main thing, as you said, winning on the field. You got one playoff berth, and in a highly contested playoff game out of him. And I think it was a lot to ask of anyone to kind of just come under Snyder and try to fix everything with Snyder's getting to hide in the background and then turn around and get a $5.8 billion profit out of the team. You know what I mean?
All of that's true, but here's the problem. That one playoff berth, I remember that night because it came up in my Facebook memories, and I laughed at the Giants fans, and I made fun of them and said, look at you all complaining and in your feelings about this. Everybody else got the last laugh. Dallas got Micah Parsons. The Eagles got Devontae Smith. The Giants traded back and got another first rounder. And yes, they screwed up the one that they had originally, but they traded back and got the Bears first rounder the next year. You know what we got? Jamin Davis.
I remember.
We got the worst end of that deal. And we didn't win the playoff game, even though it was competitive. So it's like, I mean, that's the thing. Ron Rivera, yes.
George, no, go ahead, George.
Ron Rivera, he came in under all them circumstances, but you know what? He knew that walking in the building. And that front office, those were his guys. I think Jason Wright was his guy. Maybe that might have been the NFL. And it's been a disaster. And we're all I'm going to be so glad when they're all gone. Every one of them, Hurney, Mayhew. And I hate saying that about Martin Mayhew because of his ties, but goodbye. Adios. Auf Wiedersehen. Go now.
Glenn, we got a tough critic in the building, Glenn. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, but so look, and I'm gonna do Ron Rivera justice. The exact quote. Well, I like to think we're in a better place. And that's the way he thinks. So I don't want to say he like to think they're in a better place. They're not in a better place. And we're talking about when you're dealing with a fan base. We're talking about when you're dealing with a fan base. Most people, the average person, could care less about the culture outside of the football field, right? Could care less outside of the culture. They worry about the wins and losses. Truth be told, the culture of the fan base didn't have to do anything with the players anyway. It had to do with front office and management. It wasn't about the players. It wasn't about the product on the field at the time. The product wasn't great, but it wasn't where it's at now. I dare to say the product under Ron Rivera has been worse than even under Jay Gruden, under Zorn, under go back to even my man, what's the dude from Florida Gators?
Spurrier.
Just even Spurrier. The Washington Commanders now, if you think about this organization who used to be being at the top is kind of the laughing stock of the league right now. This team is the laughing stock. It's not the Cleveland Browns anymore. It ain't the freaking Detroit Lions it's not the Lions who get their first home playoff game and forever, right? Ever, right? This team has become, under Ron Rivera's tenure, has become the laughing stock of the league. And that's because of some of the decisions he has made, front things. Even this year, the decisions to get rid of both Chase and Montez, where everybody thought he was going to keep at least one, right? Everybody thought they were going to keep at least one.
At least 90.
At least 90, right? You wouldn't have got the slack if he had kept at least one, right? But he got rid of both of them. Candy mentioned it too, that it demoralized the locker room. And once you got rid of both of them, everybody in the locker room knew, you know what? We are throwing away the rest of the season. And therefore, the motivation and stuff went down. So what Ron said is, I like to think it's better. It's not better, right? There's nothing better in this organization. And I don't blame it all on him, but you're the head dog. You're the chief. You should if fight adversity, right? The adversity you should be fighting. So you know what? Let's block out the outside noise and let's control what we can control for these 60 minutes on this football field. We can control those. Can't control anything else. Can't control ownership. And Ron Rivera didn't do that as a leader of this football team. He could have done this as a leader of the football team. Look how long it took him to make the Jack Del Rio decision, right? Right. It could have been made last season, right? It could have made in the summer. It could have been made 2 years ago, right? Look how long it took. Look, he saved his job. The moves that he made was to save his own job, right? He got rid of Scott Turner so he didn't get fired. He got rid of Jack Del Rio so he wouldn't get fired in the middle of this season. So he made those decisions because it took a losing on Thanksgiving Day, getting embarrassed on Thanksgiving Day, national TV, for him to get rid of Jack Del Rio. When everybody knew this should have been happening earlier in the season. You still have the same coach last year who didn't know that if you lose into the Cleveland playoffs. I mean, how as a head coach / GM, you don't know this stuff, right? He made himself look like, you know what? I'm not the guy for the job. And I'm going to say this, and I give it to you guys. If it had not been for the team being over the summertime or being sold, Ron Rivera would have been fired last year.
Absolutely.
Two things. The one word that comes to mind with a lot of things that you were saying, Glenn, was patience. It just seems like this fan base was forced to be patient with a lot of things that was going on. And two, when it comes to something I was thinking about before, when I think George was pointing out like everybody being gone and Jason Wright and then Ron's position, it just seems like the way that they structured the decision making, and Candy kind of hit on it too. It just seems like they structured it in a way that it wasn't built for winning. In their minds, yes, but when you're talking about a coach like Ron Rivera and trying to galvanize young men, I think he should have hired a coach that he felt that was more younger and invigorating for this particular team, and have him be more of an executive rather than a coach, because to me his demeanor and his coaching style didn't breed or give energy, high energy, if I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't think that the addition of EB and then within the first week of training camp, players complaining about he's too tough and things like that was the shot in the arm that he was trying to do right there?
It was, but it was all too late. And it goes back to the first thing I said, patience.
Yes.
Now we have to be patient with the fact that EB can do the job they wanted done. And now it seems like I'm not gonna say we're. It seems like fans that I've come encounter with are like they don't even want EB back. They don't want that particular coach, and it hurts him. It cripples EB's coaching resume to an extent in my, my mind.
We asked. I'm not gonna say we asked the impossible of Eric Bieniemy, but we asked a lot of them. Just to interrupt before I continue. Touchdown Saints, 41-17 Saints. That is great news for Operation Top 2 pick for Washington. Great news. Unfortunately, it looks like the Jets might be about to put the Patriots away because they're down there close and they're up 6-3. But everything you said is spot on. Washington fans have had to be patient with things they didn't want to be patient with, so that when things turn sour with Eric Bieniemy in this offense and Sam Howell, there was not going to be any patience. And again, we asked so much of Eric Bieniemy. You're going to come in here with a franchise that's been mediocre, with a quarterback that started one game and didn't get the grounding that he should have got last year. And I will keep saying it till my dying breath. Sam Howell should have played 7 or 8 games last year, not 1. And I think this year would have been a lot better for him and for Eric Bieniemy. And we're asking him and the best point is the one Wole made so eloquently last week, which was we're asking them to carry a defense that we all think is good but turned out to be awful. This is the worst defense in the NFL in total defense, and I think they're 31st or 32nd in points allowed, and we're asking a new offensive coordinator with a quarterback with 1 start in his second year in the league to carry that. And we're all, and that's the thing, and that's where Wole is so dead on about all this. Everybody's blaming them and saying, "Oh, Eric Bieniemy's terrible and Sam Howell's terrible." What about the other side of the ball, for God's sake?
Yeah,
that's where all the first round picks are. They're on that side of the ball, and they stink. And Eric Bieniemy's not getting a fair shake here. But let's be honest, he hasn't gotten a fair shake in a lot of places, and some people are recognizing it because you're hearing his name for Carolina. You're hearing his name for other potential job openings. And look, and as has been pointed out on this show and others, look at that mess in Kansas City without him. Now, some of that's lack of talent at wide receiver, but some of that's him not being there. And I'll tell you this, whatever happens with turning this roster over, I hope that the players that complain about Eric Bieniemy are out of here. I don't care who they are. Because Eric Bieniemy is what a lot of these people needed. They needed a kick in the butt, because Scott Turner wasn't going to get in anybody's face and light a fire under anybody, and they were garbage under him. They were a mediocre offense. It's like people are talking about, oh, they're only averaging this or that or the other. We got to 30 points 4 times this season? 5?
Yeah,
it's been a long time since that's happened in this town in Washington with an offense. So I think everything you said is right, but I think it's really the lack of patience. Is Eric Bieniemy's the one taking the brunt of that. It's not fair, but unfortunately, lots of things in life aren't fair.
And the ironic part of that, George, is the games that you scored 30, the other team put up 30-something too.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
man, Jack Del Rio.
But it was
the fact that he wasn't gone 2 years ago. I had a soliloquy about that on this show before. I don't need to do it again.
It is definitely a defensive issue. I mean, if we asked all of us coming into the season, and we all did predictions, we were all on different shows, and everyone predicted this team to at least be 10-7. Some predicted them to be 11-6, something of that nature. And to see the debacle, see the downfall of this team and this organization this year has been a tragedy, right? And it's not all on Eric Bieniemy neither, because again, he's playing with a rookie quarterback, as we talked about. It's the job of the defense to stop plays. It's the job of Ron Rivera, and Mayhew. I'm going to go Mayhew, right? To know that you need linebackers, right? And you brought in Cody Barton and not signed Cole Holcomb to stay in this organization. You didn't get Bobby Wagner, who's a Pro Bowler this year. Man, not added. He's a pro. I'm going to say it one more time. And I've been a Bobby Wagner, who was a free agent out there, who was a late free agent, nobody wanted to pick up, and you had the money to get, who's this year, it had a Pro Bowl season, could have had him teaching Jamin Davis and some of the young guys how to play linebacker in this league, and Bobby Wagner still doing it at a top level and is a Pro Bowler. Those are the type of things when you look back at this regime and say, you know what could have been if he got out of his own way, if he allowed, not selecting. Emmanuel Forbes is great, right? I understand that. Knowing that you needed an offensive lineman, some young offensive lineman, selecting an offensive lineman instead of Emmanuel Forbes, because you had some safeties that you could have developed and trained at that moment to give up to get bigger, but you went for a corner. So
especially when you go 2 DBs back to back, first 2 picks in the same draft. So, but I think.
And when you wasn't getting torched, and you wasn't getting, it's not like this defense was getting torched in the secondary last year. They wasn't getting torched like that, right? They was coming along. And so not like you didn't have a St. Juice coming off, not like you didn't have a Defoe. It's not like you didn't have people that was in the building that all you needed to do was teach and train and develop to be what you needed to be. But you want to hit your wagon to a rookie coming in. But D, I saw you clapping, man. But
preach. Absolutely right. By the way, congratulations to Todd Bowles, former Washington Redskins safety. The Bucs won the division today. 9-0 over Carolina. Love Todd Bowles. Would have liked to have seen him here as a defensive coordinator for a new coach. That ain't happening now. He's sticking around in Tampa.
Can I ask a question real quick? And it's football related, but it's kind of off subject too at the same time. As far as like coaching candidates and people that are out there, have you guys either had an opinion on or can see a guy like Byron Leftwich coming home?
Go ahead, Glenn.
In any capacity.
You go first, George.
In any capacity, not as head coach, any capacity, whether it's quarterbacks coach, whatever.
I would love to see him on the staff as an OC or a quarterbacks coach. He's had some good years doing that, and of course, you know, there was some talk about him getting the Jacksonville job before Doug Peterson, but then there was a disagreement with the GM over there and all that other stuff. But I would be happy to see Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich was a pros pro when he was in the league. I think he's pretty well respected. Yeah, I mean, he had some tough times in Tampa last year, but they didn't have diddly squat for talent last year after Brady retired. So I would like to see that. And again, you know, I think when you're building the staff, whoever's going to be the coach, if it's an offensive coach, you need a DC who's been a coach before. I think that's where you get your experienced old head coach that's done this. Like before Tampa Bay turned this season around and I thought Todd Bowles was a goner there, I'm like, if we get a new coach and he's an offensive guy, please hire Todd Bowles. Not going to happen now, but somebody like that. And then you build out. And I mean, Byron Leftwich, I think he's been an assistant now 6 or 7 years in the league. I think that's the kind of guy you want in a position like that, a QB or even an OC. So QB coach or an OC. So yeah, Byron Leftwich would be somebody that I would hope to do coach whoever it is. If he meshes together and it's a philosophy that works, let's have that. That'd be a good fit.
And to your question, I think that's something we discussed on the show the other day, Glenn. Go ahead and offer what's your solution?
You know, to me, Byron Leftwich wouldn't be a bad, because again, he worked at a top level. Let's not forget, Byron Leftwich does have a Super Bowl ring with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tom Brady, as him being the OC there, right? He know how to develop a quarterback because he played quarterback in this league. So you can take a Sam Howell underneath his wing. He also, again, if he's good enough for Tom Brady, I'm sure he'll be good enough for Sam Howell, right? So Byron Leftwich wouldn't be a bad fit on someone's staff that comes to Washington. I think that is a name that I didn't think about, but as I think a name should be considered. Go back to George's comment about Todd Bowles. It is like most guys, right? And we always see the list of coaches that Washington could have had that was in the building here in Washington who leaves and are successful somewhere else, right? That's what needs to stop happening. Coaches who are successful and young leaving the house, right, before they get an opportunity to move up in ranks. And so that's the head coach's job, the GM job. But back to the question, Byron Leftwich would be a good addition, and whoever the head coach would be in this organization.
I think
I've got another guy in mind that just came to me when I was thinking about this last night. Maybe for head coach, but certainly as an assistant, if you can get him away from this team. Steve Wilkes, out in San Francisco. Carolina should have kept him because he almost got him in the playoffs. He is a hell of a defensive coordinator. His record as a defensive coordinator is right up there. And he didn't get a fair shot in Arizona. Everybody knows it. He was no chance to be successful there. And
he
blowing
fits
him out the door for Cliff Kingsbury was so ludicrous. I don't even know where to begin. I hope, even for head coach or for defensive coordinator, that they take a long look at Steve Wilks, because he's a guy who's been coaching his tail off most of the last 5-6 years, and I would love to see somebody like that in the building for Washington.
I think it fits your narrative of having a guy on the defensive with defensive coaching experience that also has been a head coach. I think that will come. I think that's certain. Who I was thinking about was I know Brian Leftwich would do awesome with the job, but I think this 1 year off is kind of putting him on the back burner for a lot of people, especially when he was on the back burner for a lot of people when he was in mainstream. You know what I mean? He was in front of everybody. Tom Brady was over there breaking records that we didn't think he would break at 43 years old under his stewardship and whatnot. You know, Bruce Arians basically just turned over the whole offense to him. And that said a lot to me about Byron Leftwich a long time ago, because we know how Bruce Arians is about his own offense and how he likes to see the product based off of his experience and his reputation with quarterbacks, what he did with Andrew Luck and all Brent Roethlisberger's along the way. I think that this job, I think that a name that we've been seeing, I thought Glenn was going to speak to, was we've been hearing about Jim Harbaugh, right? But I think that would not be a great decision, because the separation of church and state, if I can say it that way, in terms of the GM and whatnot, we've known Harbaugh's history of wanting to run the show. He's one of the guys that wants to go grocery shopping and cook the groceries himself also. So I think you have to stray away from guys like that. I think Dan Quinn is a really, really good name over here. If he's willing to come up north from the division rival, I think his expertise on defense will lend his hand to the struggles of this team this year. Typically, when he was in Seattle, Earl Thomas was a big name, right? But everybody else was like a fifth rounder or a fourth rounder with Cam Chancellor. But it goes back to the way that we draft, but the way that the Commanders are going to draft going forward with the GM and pairing them together, getting like-minded individuals in here. And then first evaluating the talent you have. We know that certain guys aren't going nowhere. Emmanuel Forbes isn't going anywhere, right? He needed a longer leash this year, or he needed to play that was advantageous to him outside of the way that Jack Del Rio wanted to play him and whatnot. And I think we saw that on display. So there's a lot of questions, but I think Dan Quinn, that somebody like of that ilk, I wouldn't mess with any of the Philly coordinators. I wouldn't, these guys. The guy up in McDonald up in Baltimore is another one. But those guys I question also, because if you don't have the foundation of the organization in place, like I no offense to him, in my opinion, I think Baltimore's defense is an easy defense to coach. I think because they have pieces all around, right? And they not only do they have pieces all around, they have depth. They do things like add a Jadeveon Clowney when nobody wants him, and he breaks his, he gets 10 sacks finally in his like 8th, 9th year in the league. And they get the most out of him, right? Kyle Hamilton, who was right there for the Commanders to draft 1 year, and they moved back and picked Jahan Dotson as a Swiss Army knife, unlike we've ever seen, right? Then they do things like add Roquan Smith before they signed Lamar Jackson, when everybody was going crazy thinking they weren't going to sign Lamar. And now look at Lamar. Lamar's in the MVP run. Lamar's about to be the two-time MVP in 6 years. And if he messes around and he takes this as far as he's supposed to take it, Baltimore looks like fools for not giving him his money early on, right? So other organizational things have to be in place. So I think starting with the GM, I think that'll give us a lot of insight on how this team goes, right? If there's a GM of prominence or not.
Let's get some of these fans' questions in real quick. My man Thomas Kennedy says, take the guy from Baltimore. He likes the Mac McDonald situation that there. I don't think it depends on where Baltimore goes. If Baltimore goes to the Super Bowl, that guy not getting out of that building, right? And not letting that dude go. Let's go here. Here we go. Andrew O'Connell says, need the Cowboys to win if we want Caleb Williams, right? If you want Caleb Williams, you definitely want the Cowboys to win on today. Tay says this. Tay said, we was forced to do a lot and get nothing, right? And get nothing. Who was forced? Talking about Ron Rivera was forced to do a lot and got nothing. My man Jay Nash says this. Let's go Commanders. Hey, we all want the Commanders to go. I would like to see a good showing, but at the end of the day, what will you get from them? And he would go, I honestly be upset if we win. I always wanted to beat Dallas, but I don't want to mess with his draft position. Do you think that's the sentiment? Do you think that's the sentiment of most fans today? That we want to beat Dallas, you always want to beat Dallas, but you don't want to mess with the draft position. Do you guys
Absolutely.
think that is the
Listen, man, this
Absolutely.
is all.
That's an easy question, easy answer.
I've been joking all week, but this is all in for Drake May. Stop playing.
Well, that's the thing with the Bears, though.
Coaching staff.
The Bears should be on a 7-game win streak right now. They blew
True,
2 games in the fourth quarter where they were up double digits. They'd be in the playoffs if they'd have won the 2 games. Are we sure Justin Fields is not going to be there next year?
That's my dilemma too. Justin Fields might actually be in Chicago next year.
I can't see it.
I think he's going to be in one or two places. He might be back in Chicago or Atlanta.
Yeah,
but if you follow me on Twitter, my Avi is Justin Fields in burgundy and gold.
Let me tell you something. Justin Fields, no matter what he does right now, he has to go. Chicago's playing with the church's money. They got the number 1 overall pick, and it's not to nothing that they've ever done. It's not to anything that they've done. They're in contention for the playoffs in the 10th pick. You know what I mean? Like in general, they're in contention. What they did this year resulted in the 10th pick in the draft, which will result in, if that was the case, keep Justin Fields. But if you're getting a free number 1 overall pick and it's Caleb Williams and you look down the pipeline at quarterbacks and there's nothing but Shedeur Sanders there next year, like you have to make this pick because you have 2 in the top 10. If they mess around and lose today, they get a first and a 7th or 8th. You change your entire program with that.
On Justin Fields then.
Huh?
Shouldn't Washington be thinking about Justin Fields then?
I tell you who I think should have eyes on Justin Fields. I think with the masterful job that Mike Tomlin is doing up there in Pittsburgh with that carousel, imagine getting a player. It has to be a team that has something that they can offer because you're going to have to turn around and pay this guy, right? Because nobody's going to pick up the option. They're not going to pick up the option for him, so you have to pay him 1 year earlier because if you don't pay him, you waste the draft positioning and he's going to walk out the door. So you have to be committed to Justin Fields. And I don't think there's enough tape by anybody, and especially the way his fourth quarters are panning out. I saw a stat about his fourth quarters the other day, which is leading. That's why Chicago's still debating on him. Even though the talent is there, it's not matriculating. And they have a defensive-minded head coach, and they don't have the proper offensive staff to get this kid where he has. And it's almost like the writing's on the wall. You get a chance at Caleb Montgomery. Go ahead.
But I'm saying that's the thing, though. You have a kid, and you see the coaching not there, not the kid's talent or athleticism, right? He has rushed over 1,000 yards. He can throw the ball down the field. He made DJ Moore a household name again against us, the Commanders. He's hitting DJ Moore there now. Now, coming to Washington or go wherever else where they have multiple receivers, the kid is not a bad quarterback. Now, do you take a guy like Caleb Williams or Drake May, who you have to go take a step back? In my opinion, he's not going to give you Justin Field numbers the first year or two. All right, do this organization hit the reset button and then develop? Because everybody's not CJ Stroud, right? They're not going to put up those type numbers that he put up this year as a rookie. 22, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, over 3,000 with 4,000 yards. I don't think you get that production out of Drake May or Caleb Williams, regardless of where they go next year.
I think Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams. No, I know that Justin Fields is a pro and he's playing against pros, but at every you gotta understand. The first thing you mentioned was the kid ran for 1,000 yards, right? That's what you said. So when it comes to quarterbacks, I don't want that to be the first thing you say about my quarterback. I'm sorry, and I think most people don't want that to be the first thing you say about their quarterback. That's a plus. That's a bonus. But it comes down to the arm talent. Justin Fields' arm talent and Caleb Williams' arm talent is just 2 separate leagues. And you see the difference in them in college. And I think that's why Caleb Williams trained. Caleb Williams has fallen off because he also has the same problems the Commanders does. His defense gives up an average of 30 to 40 points a game in college. If he doesn't score 40, they can't win. And I think that's why he fell off this year in terms of, because the play is still the same. He's still out there being Houdini. He's still tossing it around the yard because Lincoln Riley's always going to make sure that fits the billing. But they couldn't stop a nosebleed at USC this year. And those tightly contested games that he was winning as a Heisman candidate the first year, he wasn't winning this year. But Caleb Williams is an individual talent. I think Justin Fields is going to even have to say is better than him. And the extra bonus of Caleb Williams is you have 5 years before you have to pay this kid, right? So you get to have you get to build the whole rest of the team situation, and you have a low price quarterback that can come in and produce. Caleb Williams is going to throw 25 touchdowns next year. If he doesn't get hurt, he's special. He's special like that. He's special like that. Not.
I feel like the Bears are feeling the same way you feel. The way you were on, how you were on Drake May. I feel like the Bears, if they're looking at really replacing Justin Fields with the word that came to mind, I don't want to use it, but with a better decision at quarterback, they'll probably go with somebody like Drake May. Because to me, you want to go clean cut versus going wild card. And I feel like Caleb Williams, to me, is a wild card.
But with those weapons that they have there, his wild cardness, I think, like, he has a Mahomes-ness to him, like getting in and out of stuff that he shouldn't and throwing the ball places he shouldn't, and it's still being complete. The kid is supremely talented. Like, I don't know if you can go back to the North Carolina well in Chicago and get the fan base on your side with what they did with Mitch Trubisky. So they might want to stay away from University of North Carolina quarterbacks because if that go a different way, Glenn, it's going to be some smoke in that city. You guys already know Chicago.
It's going to be bad. But, one thing about Caleb Williams, people are questioning his mental toughness and his mental adversity. And that's one of the biggest things. Unfortunately, right? They talking about his mental toughness. And that's one of the things as a quarterback, you want your guy to be mentally tough. You want him to be the leader of the team. You want him to be able to stand up and command what people command have that presence about him. Again, I don't know if he was able to do that at USC. And we know how that panned out when he didn't play in the bowl game. Everybody started coming out. But I'm not saying Caleb Williams is not going to be a good athlete. It's not about him being a good athlete. The thing is, when you are drafting, will he fit into an organization, right? And is the organization willing to work with him? Even if Washington just end up getting the second pick, which it looked like they're not going to get the second pick, right? Will he fit into this organization? And you said something about 5-6 minutes ago. The key is you have to have a good GM and a good head coach or a good coordinator, as Dee was talking about, to be able to train him and to keep him to the place where you want him to be at, regardless of what organization he goes to. Somebody who challenges him, somebody who pushes him, somebody who can play this league. And that's why a Byron Leftwich or a place where he has a good coordinator, because you also said that the Bears don't have the staff. So if you take a Caleb Williams and you don't have the staff to develop him, you're hurting Caleb Williams more so when you're hurting your draft pick more than anything else.
But you guys do know, when you get a new shiny toy, you get everything that the new shiny toy, all the accessories with the new shiny toy. They'll do that for Caleb Williams. They're not going to do it for Justin because they probably made their mind up about him already. And then and then you're looking down. At the end of the day, they're looking down the pipe, right? If you're looking down the pipe, Justin Fields is about to warrant a big contract. Even if you take the fifth-year option, you're stuck with him for 2 years to try to figure it out. And like the quarterback options in the future coming up that we haven't seen so far, when we project down the line, there's not too many of them. When's the next time you're going to have the number 1 overall pick? You don't go into a season or your future wanting the next number 1 overall pick, especially when you get one for free. I think that you have to go. Chicago has to. It's going to throw some of their fan base off, but they have to go in the way of one of these quarterbacks. Whichever way it is will have its own adverse effects later. But I know that it can't be Justin Fields. It cannot be Justin Fields.
And I got you. Maybe you can do part 2 because what you said about you used the name Patrick Mahomes. People fail to realize Patrick Mahomes didn't come out as a rookie and start. Patrick Mahomes came out a rookie and set. So now, if you're gonna put Caleb Williams in a situation, not whatever situation Caleb Williams go in, Caleb Williams cannot be the first to be game number 1 starter next year. He has to sit in whatever team that is. So why do I think so? Because you said it earlier, right? Look at the Bears, right? They're moving. George said it too. They're 2 games away where they had big leads in the fourth quarter from making the playoffs with Justin Fields, right? Do you take a team who barely missed the playoffs, insert rookie, and you take a step back?
I think you insert rookie and it gets better because rookie has better arm talent and like a higher ceiling.
I mean, you got to go back to Carson Palmer the last time a number 1 quarterback.
The 1 overall pick sat down.
Yeah. I mean, and that was a different situation. Cincinnati
had
John
Everybody
Kitna.
They were fresh. They had John Kitna. They were a year removed from the playoff before that. So like it's going to be hard to sit Caleb Williams down, regardless of what team he goes to, unless you have a number 1 staunch guy in place. He's going to be a day 1 starter with the way that they talk about him.
So let's get back to Washington and talk about Washington here too. To lose the day, as we mentioned, they still probably get the number 3 pick, not the number 2 pick. So Washington hit number 3. Washington, and we're gonna take this from Robert White. The Washington Commanders football team will own the draft if we lose, trade it down a little bit, and get a lot of draft picks. Do you trade down with the number 3 pick if Washington lose the day, get number 3, or somehow? I don't think New England can come back. If New England does come back and win, I got to check the score for a minute. If New England does come back and win,
New England's the Jets just got a touchdown and got the 2, so the Patriots going to lose. But I think because the Saints won, I think we're still going to win that strength of schedule tiebreaker if we lose.
Okay, so if Washington gets number 2 and New England gets number 3, and this is a question I posed on the podcast, a question this week, and D, I start with you first. If you're Washington, you're the acting GM of this team, or the new GM, Washington has a number 3 pick, right? No, Washington has the number 2 pick. Do you trade down to number 3, knowing that the New England Patriots need a quarterback, want a quarterback? Do you trade down and get more picks from the New England Patriots, or do you go ahead and select one of these 2 quarterbacks at number 2?
Let me answer this question. If I'm sitting in the war room the day of the draft and Caleb Williams goes first, or Drake May goes first, and I'm looking at the board and I can get Penix in the middle of the first round, I'm going to trade down. I'm going to take Penix later in the first, and I'm going to stockpile with some, and hopefully get an additional 3rd this year, and maybe a late round pick, and just stockpile in that position, because I'm a stockpile guy, and that's why I say that. And I know that's a hot take, but I look at it from that position, because I want to add more youth to this team, based on if we have the new GM, we have the new coach, and if it's a new GM and coach that is, let's just say it's Ortiz out of Baltimore, and he gets slow as and I'm just throwing out names. I'm just throwing it's not my dream guy. I'm just throwing out names. I'm going in that direction, and the OC is going to be somebody that's going to start working with this quarterback. So it's going to be new coach, new GM working together, along with a new OC working with a new quarterback in that particular mindset. But there is another option where I would stay there and just take Caleb.
I think the Penix take, Michael Penix or Penix, however you say his name, is a hot take. You talking about hot? Because I understand the run that he's on right now in the college football playoffs, especially if he wins it on Monday. But I don't think that's the caliber of quarterback that this franchise needs. I think that if you're going to go quarterback, you cannot be this GM cannot take this job and be the GM that passed up on Drake May or Caleb Williams, and he had a chance to get either one of them, because you're already setting a precedence for the next 5 years by doing something like that. You have 5 picks in the top 100. That's already draft capital, right? So like trading back doesn't behoove you anymore, because what are you going to do? You're going to have 6 or 7 picks in the top 100. And we know you're not going to hit on all of them, right? Like, so you want to, but we know you're not going to hit on all of them. You also have $90 million. You also have $90 million this offseason to fix some things around.
And I use that against you in my argument, because for one, starting with Penix, it's not his run, it's his talent. I feel like as far as arm talent and in the right position as far as scheme, he can be of the ilk of a top tier quarterback. I'm not going to put him I'm not going to compare him to anybody, because I don't really like the comparisons. So he can come into an offense and give you top caliber, which is what we were expecting for Sam to be in that top 15. And then also with having that cap space, there are ways to manipulate that cap when going to free agency and get certain guys that can come in and help be more of a veteran help to this particular organization.
I think Glenn said it best. Glenn said it best the other show. He said that it had to be the right mix of veteran and youth, right? It has to be the right mix of veteran and youth in key spots, because you're going to be young in the secondary. If Fuller's possibly playing on his last day too, right?
Yeah.
Fuller's possibly playing his last day. So that leaves you on next year's roster, isn't it? Just Martin and because St. Juice too, right?
No, I think St. Juice has another one.
Okay, so you guys say you're going to be left with St. Juice, you're going to be left with Forbes and Martin. Your Percy Butlers of the world. Defoe has to come back. Cam Curl has to sign in order to come back. So it's things like that I feel like are in the way. Like, I know the best football move is to go get the best lineman in the draft, but you're not in position to, because you have to take a quarterback with all this new that's coming in. And like, I keep harping on that fact, because like, if you miss on the quarterback now, you're setting yourself up for success. You're setting yourself up to not be successful again, because you're never going to know when you're this high to draft a quarterback that you want, that you can spend all your time on.
Right.
I think Michael Penix coming into the draft this year was looked at as a third or second rounder. So like, even with his surge, I know somebody's going to reach for him. But you don't want to be the team that went back and got him, and then you put him in a position where he's not the most successful, because they're using a lot of things against him in terms of what he did at Indiana, right? With his pedigree in Indiana. And then they're saying that, a lot of this success is because the Pac-12 is sorry on defense. And he has the best weapons in the Pac-12 with 4 receivers that could possibly play in NFL football at some day. So I think there's a lot stacked against Penix as a player, and I think that the combine season is going to help us figure all that out. But you know the guys. I like to think of the draft just where we're sitting at right now with the second or third pick and how things move. You're going to have to take the best player available in order to get this fan base on board.
Got you. George, your thoughts on this? What would you do with your second pick, George?
If Caleb Williams is picked one, and I have to thank Mo, because I'm now kind of starting to emotionally prepare myself that we're not going to get Caleb Williams, because I'm desperate for that to happen. However, Caleb Williams gets picked 1. Would I go from 2 to 3 if, say, I know New England wants Drake May and we're maybe taking Jaden Daniels at 3? I think I could do that, because you sit here and say, well, what are you going to do with more picks? Get more fresh blood in here. This roster, a lot of this roster is getting turned over. Some people have speculated up to 2/3 of this roster is going to get turned over, which that seems a little extreme. But look, if that's the case, trading from 2 to 3 when we're not going to pick Drake May anyway because we want Jaden Daniels, if that is the scenario, is something I would love to do. Now, see, I was the other way, thinking let's go from 2 to 1 to make sure we get Caleb Williams, and let's give Chicago a few picks because we got picks to give them.
But you don't want to give up those
what
picks.
You're saying,
you don't want to give up those picks.
No.
What?
You do not want. I don't think the Commanders should give up picks. Like, I think that's what's giving you guys the flexibility this year is the picks with the $90 million.
But here's why that doesn't matter, because it's going to take 2 or 3 years of roster building to fix this mess that's been left. One thing you can say, this is a good job because you got Josh Harris as the owner, and you're going to have a normal, traditional structure for the first time since I don't even know when the last time we had a traditional structure with a real GM and a real head coach. I guess you could argue Zorn, but I wouldn't argue that in any respect. So that's the good part. The bad part is this roster is terrible. It is and it's almost top to bottom terrible. You know, we're paying a lot of money to 2 defensive tackles who didn't produce this year, and one of them might get traded. We're paying a lot of money to a wide receiver that's probably underperformed this year. The first-round wide receiver that we took last year was decent as a rookie and was terrible the rest of the time. That's a problem. The first-round draft pick this year at cornerback is a complete bust after 1 year. It's going to take a lot to rehabilitate that. Cam Curl wants a lot of money. He shouldn't be getting a big extension right now. If anything, I'd tag him. I'd do the tag game with him. So this roster, you can't fix this in one offseason and one draft. It's going to take bare minimum 2, probably 3. So for me, that flexibility, I get where you're coming from with that. That's not that big a deal to me because there is so much work that has to be done. This house almost needs to be razed to the ground and start over with.
New foundation. As we have 14 minutes to game time. I want to give you guys two questions. I ask you guys to give me your keys to victory if you want the Commanders to win and your prediction on the score today. George, we start with you.
Okay, I don't want the Commanders to win. I think the key to victory, though, is they're going to have to keep this ball away from the Dallas offense because even if the weather's bad, the way Dallas went through them like a hot knife through butter on Thanksgiving, you're going to have to find a way to have some balance try to hold this ball, because that's what they did last year in that Week 18 game. I think they had the ball like 35, 36 minutes last year.
Mhm.
That's how they're going to win. But let's face it, they're probably going to turn this ball over again a lot like they did on Thanksgiving. If I see another Deron Bland pick six, I'm going to be pretty mad, but that's about the only thing about today that's going to make me mad. Because the weather's bad, I'm going to go for a low-scoring shutout for Dallas. I'm going to go for 21-0 Dallas.
All right. D.
I'm going to go with my score and I'm going to explain it. I feel like it's going to be a score of like 31. Or let me say, 34 to like 14 or 34-17, because I feel like Dallas is going to control the tempo of the game on offense. And Washington is going to be trying to figure it out on offense, because this offensive line, to me, cannot withstand that Dallas pressure, in my opinion.
Man, the key to victory is to turn the ball over.
And control
No. The key to victory is to turn the ball over, make sure Dallas wins, get out of here unscathed, and let's get to next year.
Hey,
Amen, Mo. Amen.
That's how everybody. That's what's going to make everybody happy. So that's the key to victory.
now no key to victory. They will not win this. I don't think they win the football game. The score for this Commanders, because that's all. And I say that because we've seen a team who's quit. Right, you've seen a team who's not been motivated, not been able to. We see a team who, not under this regime, has ever came out fired up for any football game whatsoever. Right, never seen them fire up under Ron Rivera. What makes anyone think they can come out fired up today when everybody know they're going fishing and clean out their lockers tomorrow? Is not going to happen. Right. So again, Washington Commanders probably lose 35-7. Most people will probably cut this game off at halftime or take a nap. But please don't take a nap. Please watch the whole game. When you come back, come back for the post game, because we'll be here talking about the post game with Ron Rivera. Have a little bit of press conference with Ron Rivera. We have a post game here, but check us out. Make sure you do that. Again, it is vital for this Washington organization and Ron Rivera. This last day, Mo, you mentioned it early. I should have put a poll. I'm gonna put a poll out there. Should they fire Ron Rivera on his birthday? Yes or no? see what the fans think. We'll see what the fans think.
Get that man some grace.
Man. Hey, for a birthday gift for Ron Rivera, Josh, the Hall Group, Harrison ownership group, fire the man on Tuesday. Don't do him dirty on Black Monday. give him an extra day and give him a gift. Give him a gift on Monday on publicly, like, hey, happy birthday, Ron Rivera, after the game, blah blah blah. Then on Tuesday, we have now relieved Ron of his.
We have decided to go separate ways.
Anyways, hey, yo, here we go. Doug, shout out D. He says he loves your sweatshirt, man. Love the sweatshirt.
It's pretty good. It's pretty nice.
Pretty good sweatshirt. Hey, so as we get out of here, we proved that we can do this without Wole, man. No, I'm just kidding, man. Wole on vacation, well-needed vacation, well-needed time. George, D, we appreciate you guys for rocking with us here on the pregame. Game's about to come up. But before you guys get out of here, make sure those who following us on social media, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, or whether it's Facebook, do us a favor. Make sure you subscribe to All Burgundy and Gold, everything, this YouTube channel. If you in the chat right now on YouTube, you haven't hit the YouTube, has not hit the subscribe button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification. If you've been watching this for the last hour and 30, and then hit the like button. If you've been watching this for the last hour and 13 minutes and you ain't hit the subscribe button, what is wrong with you, right? You know you laughed, you had some good time, you had some comments. If you commented and you ain't hit the subscribe button, what is wrong with you? Hit the subscribe button, right? If you're on Facebook, you watch it on Facebook, go over to YouTube, subscribe to if you're a member of the Facebook group or the Facebook page, just go over to YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube page as well, right? And make sure you do that. But check us out today after the game. Whenever the game ends, we'll be back here for the post-game show, talking more Commanders football and talking about the ups and downs of this football game. You've been listening to All Burgundy and Gold, everything powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM, 1340 AM for ages, baby. Have a good one. Talk to you guys at the post-game. Peace.
Enjoy the game, people.